It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Yeah, baby. This week, I am so happy to introduce our special, well, actually, he's not the guest, but a dear friend, extremely successful taxi member, Mr. Matt Vander Boegh. And he's going to play the role of guest host. And for those of you who haven't seen Matt's YouTube channel, it's called Matt's Music Minute. I'm sure Liz will throw a link up to it a couple times during the show today. But he's just doing a great job. Started a few months ago. He's giving out great information. And it's unfortunate that his personability is kind of mild, and his videos are hysterically funny. Anyway, well, he's going to interview me today. I was so impressed with all of his videos, and he has a deep knowledge of taxi because he's been around for a long time. And I asked him, ask me anything, get questions from other people, ask me the tough questions, because it really freaks me out a little bit. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but when I see people talking about taxi online that clearly don't know what they're talking about, I figure, you know what? Here's somebody asking me questions. I fed him a few questions, which you saw in the email that went out. But let me tell you who Matt is. For those of you who don't know him yet, or have never been to a taxi road rally and seen him on a panel there, or seen a taxi TV, and this information I'm giving you is a little bit out of date, but not that bad. In his 14 years of making music for TV, Matt Vander Boegh has amassed a staggering 30,000 plus placements on over 1,000 TV programs, including various major sporting events, Hollywood movies, high-profile reality, I almost said realty shows. Yes, let's go look at that house together. Reality TV shows, soap operas, commercials, daytime and evening talk shows. He has nearly 5,000 cues and hundreds of full-length songs signed to oodles of high-end music libraries. Once again, my friend Matt Vander Boegh. Okay, so his mission today is not to be my friend, not pull any punches. I told him, don't pull any punches, no holds barred. Ask the questions, including the tough ones, that people who want to know more about taxi or the sync world or anything related, ask anything. So, hi, Matt. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, Michael. Hey, everybody out there. What's up?
How is Matt's volume level, so we don't have to go fixing that in 5 minutes? There's a little bit of a delay from what we're going to find out. How's the weather up there, Matt?
Oh, it's dreary up here. We just hit, it was turning really, really nice. And then we got some rain today, and the next week is all the kids are on spring break, and the weather dropped down to the 50s, and it's overcast and dreary. Poor kids got their spring break ruined by the weather, but
they can go up in the mountains and go skiing. Lots of fresh snow.
Yeah. If you're into that, I never think of that.
I am. I love to ski. Haven't done it in years though. Anyway, excuse me. We're all good. By the way, I want to let everybody know this side of my face, I got some serious dental work done on Saturday, so I'm still very swollen. And a little out of it. I actually, this is probably how you feel 2 days after regular surgery. So I'm just not my usual perky self today, but Matt will perk me up because he has a lot of personality.
Okay. Should we get into it?
Marion Laird says you're a little softer than me, but it's good. So yeah, can you bring up your input just a little?
Up? Yeah, I can get up a little bit. Yep.
All right, perfect.
We'll try that and just let me know.
All right, cool. All right, I am all ears.
Okay, so like every true talk show host, I'm going to start with a monologue.
Okay, do it.
No, I want to just let everybody know. So Michael read some of my biography, but what is not in the biography on my website is my history with taxi. And just so you guys know, I am in my 16th year as a taxi member. And I've been very vocal and upfront with the fact that I credit taxi for all the success I've had in this industry and this career, like everything that I have that came about as my musical career is thanks to Taxi. 100%. All lines can be drawn back to Michael and his company. And I want to say that in advance, but also say that it would be easy for people watching this interview to think, well, Matt's clearly a Taxi fanboy, which I am. So is this really going to be a tough interview? So I don't want people to think like this is Donald Trump going to Fox News. Well, I'm going to try to get him with some good ones here. And,
this would be more like Donald Trump being interviewed by Rachel Maddow.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and Rachel kind of have the same hair, so it works.
I'm not touching that.
Yeah, please. But I'm going to start with some easy ones, and then we'll get into some deeper ones. And a lot of these questions I already know the answer to, but they're things that I hear from other people quite regularly. And if I hear them from people, then I'm sure these are like myths and misinformation that is out there about the company that hopefully we can dispel and clear it up.
Or prove that it's absolutely true. I want everybody to know the videos that Matt has done that talk about Taxi on Matt's Music Minute on YouTube. I had no idea he was doing those. I didn't ask him to do them. I didn't suggest topics to him or anything. And I was completely, not only just incredibly grateful, but blown away by, it's like, wow, I can't believe he's really the first guy. There have been a few others that have said nice things about Taxi in their videos, but Matt really laid it all out, not like a fanboy, but like somebody who's like, I bought these awesome Michelin tires for my car, and I got 100,000 miles on them. Just telling the truth. That's all you were doing. Yeah. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to start off with some easy questions, and these might be 1 or 2 word answers, so you don't have to elaborate if no elaboration is necessary. But first, how long has Taxi been in business?
33 years as of about right now. We incorporated in March, and I think I picked up the phone and called somebody and go, hey, would you like to join Taxi in the middle of January 1992? So 33 years.
Gee, 1992. Yep. Okay, that was in the heyday of, no, Friends wasn't even on the air in 1992. Seinfeld was just kind of on the air. In the second or third season? Yeah.
That makes me really old.
Okay, now this one, I'm sure you have an exact number for this, but you can kind of ballpark over the course of, 3 or 4 years. But how many current Taxi members are there?
I never disclosed that number. Haven't done it even once in 33 years, and here's my reason for that. Frankly, I find it heartbreaking and insulting when people have asked the number, and maybe I've told them privately, and the first thing they do is multiply times 300 and then assume that I get to keep 100% of that money, like we don't pay taxes, like I don't have a staff, like we don't pay $10,000 a month in rent or spend 25, 30 grand a month in marketing, and that the renewals only pay $200 a year and other people join on 100. So it just causes people to do the math. But I will tell you that when I started the company, that I publicly announced, I think I even put it in print, that I would cap membership at 10,000 people, because I figured that after 10,000 members, we would not be able to honestly handle the flow of music in a very honorable way. And I didn't want anybody to feel like they weren't being paid attention to or that we were cutting any corners. So there was a point, probably in 2006, 7-ish, somewhere around there, where we did exceed 10,000 by a little bit. And frankly, I was surprised. We handled it really well. But anyway, there you go. That's as close as you're getting on that one.
Hey, that's good. That's good. So we'll take one note. Question dodged. No, just kidding. Okay. So what is the average, I would say, tenure or lifespan of a Taxi member? Not like how old they are, but how long does a person stay a member on average? Do you know?
We actually do, although it's really hard to come up with an incredibly accurate calculation. It's actually, in business terms, called the lifetime value of a customer.
Okay.
And I would say in 2022 or 23, we did a pretty exhaustive study with my accountant and a couple of marketing friends of mine. And the number, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say it was like 2.7 years. But here's why that number is deceptive. There are a lot of people join for a year. They send in 3 things. They don't turn into you, and they go away. And then they come back again 4 years later. They decide to give it another try. A lot of people actually do that. They join, then they come back at some point when they've cooled down or become more realistic in their goals and their approach. So it was really hard to say what the average number was. But we worked really hard on it, and the best number we came up with, I want to say 2.76 years or something like that.
Okay.
But we do have members like yourself that have been members, for 5, 10, 20, more than 20 years, and then other members who ask for a refund after 90 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So an average, what's that in? I never remember the mean, the median, or the mode, or whatever the number is. But you're going to have guys like me at 16 years is going to pull the overall average up.
Right, but then the people who dropped out after 90 days or 9 months or only did 1 year, they pull it way back down. And frankly, that's a lot of people, because a lot of people do give up too quickly. The sad part is most people give up before the second year, and that's usually when things start to gain a little traction.
Yep, absolutely. We're going to come back to that in a little bit.
Ooh, good question so far.
Okay, so next question is, how many screeners do you have at any given time, or even currently? About how many screeners are currently listening to music?
I would say, and I'm doing this from the top of my head, I'm obviously, Matt didn't prepare me for these because I don't have any paperwork here.
I didn't give him any heads up as to what questions I was going to ask.
No, and these are great. Typically, we have a couple of dozen screeners that are active. We've had, I think, over 500 screeners that have worked here over the years. They're independent contractors. They're not paid by the unit, so they have no motivation to go faster. Our only requirement is they break even for us monetarily. And we've had some, I'll tell you, John Brahaney passed away, so I can talk about him. That's terrible to say. He was like one of my favorite mentors. John Brahaney was slow. He never broke even for us, but he was so thorough and so good that we kept him on even though he was a money loser. So that's always been the attitude here, is even if somebody is losing his money, but the members are getting tremendous value, it all comes out in the wash. But typically right now, I would say we've probably got couple of dozen screeners that are active. There could be people that haven't screened in 9 months or a year, and we get it in some weird genre that they're good at. We reach out to them, pull them in for that thing. So it's hard to give an exact number.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good answer. Okay. So next is, how many companies are running listings at any given time? Or maybe over the course of the year, how many companies through? Another one hard without your data in front of you.
Yeah, it is. And I don't want to give out any wrong data either direction, but I would say that typically 2 or 3 dozen companies. And it's like, in what period are you talking? This week, this month, 6 months, or a year? Over the course of a year, I would say it's probably several to many dozen. And then it could be that, like, we just had an indie film that probably ran, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, 15 different listings for that one thing. We could have somebody else drop in that hasn't used us in 4.5 years and run one listing. So again, the numbers are malleable, not for, I'm not trying to paint a false picture or anything. It's just hard to give a hard, we have exactly 17 companies running listings right now.
Well, that sounds very similar to an answer I give when people ask me how many music libraries I have music in. And I got to think, and it's somewhere in around 40 to 50, but I don't know. But that's totally misleading, because some of those libraries only have 1 to 10 tracks, and they've never really done anything. And then I've got about 5 to 8 that I feed very regularly. So it just kind of depends how you want to present that data. But so I feel you on that answer. Okay, so this is a question from my music group that I mentor up here in Idaho.
Give them 30 seconds to define what your music group is.
Yeah. So, gosh, about 8 or 9 years ago, I put together this group of people in my area. I live out kind of by Boise, Idaho, and I was just starting to get some good traction through Taxi and getting placements. I don't know if I had gone full time quite yet, but I was really close. And as you guys all are very well aware, I'm sure, that the music business is kind of lonely and kind of isolating. Like you sit in your little room by yourself and you make music and you don't interact with a lot of people. And I was really at a point of life where I needed that interaction. Like there was some personal things going on in life, and I was like, I got to be surrounded by friends. And how can I could throw a party at my house. That'd be fun. But like, what can I do for?
Yeah, but then you have to clean up after it.
Then I gotta clean up. Yeah. And maybe clean up some spills and stuff. So I was like, well, what can I do to help people who are my musician friends? So I came up with this idea that I'd put a little group together of people who are trying to make a career, or at least just try to make money by being a musician of some sort. And I just invited them all over to my house, and I said, hey, let's get a group put together where we can play music for each other and critique it. And I'll bring all the experience that I have and see if I can help you guys down this path of writing music for TV shows.
And you don't charge anybody for this, right?
God, I don't charge anybody for anything, man. Yeah, everything. I'm very giving. It's kindness of my own heart. So,
that's good. Paying it forward.
I'm
everything
hoping that karmic bank really piles up.
Well, I think it has already, and I hope it continues to.
Yeah. So anyways, this music group has been going for, like I said, 8 or 9 years, and we get together probably about every 6 to 8 weeks over at my house, just right in this room here. And we play each other's music and we critique it. And a lot of times I'll do like a learning lesson, and we'll do some type of activity. Like even we were together here last Friday, and I had this thing where people had to hold up these cards after a certain amount of time, yes or nope. So we'd play music. So I always have some like activity that helps people kind of think from a different frame of mind when they're writing music. So anyways, they were all over on Friday night, and I asked them to help me come up with some questions.
Wow. I hope they're good ones.
Yeah, I think so. This is one that I had personally never thought about, but one of the guys wanted to know if the listing codes, so every taxi listing has an alphanumeric code. Do those codes correspond at all to a music library? Like, is there any indication of what library? Okay.
No, none whatsoever. And I actually invented that code on day number 1 of Taxi. I said there's got to be a way to come up with a unique thing that never gets repeated and can't be confused with anything else. So the S means we're screening it, because we used to run listings that some companies said, don't bother screening, I want to hear everything. They got over that pretty quickly. So that's the S means it's being screened. 95, or in this case 25 is the year, or I should look at one of my own listings. Basically it's the date. S, like 06/25 would be screened. The 6th, God, where is a listing when you need it? Anyway, it's the day of the month. something else. And then the last two letters used to be indicative of CO for country, HH for hip hop. But we do so many genres now, and we have so many live listings in the same genres that Tom just makes stuff up and makes sure that it doesn't collide or overlap with anything else.
Okay.
But
yeah,
no,
I
there's
remember.
no library connection.
No library connection. Yeah, I do remember back in my early days that those letters at the end did correspond to the style of music.
Yeah.
I just haven't paid attention to those numbers or letters in a long time. Okay, so if the answer to that question is no, they do not correspond to a library, then there's a follow-up question to that. And that is there a way for people to tell what library is running a certain listing to keep them or prevent them from submitting to a listing that they're already signed to that library? So
there
in other
isn't.
words,
And here's
okay.
We have people that call up and ask us, and I feel terrible that we can't let them. But there are a couple of reasons that we don't. Number one, the minute some musicians love to, like, hey man, I got inside information. If there are people that will leak that information, and once they do, that library is permanently exposed forever, because they'll say, oh, you know that listing that said this? I know that I got inside information. Don't tell anybody, because they told me not to tell anybody. And then they just tell everybody. They go onto Facebook groups and forums and what have you. So no, as a matter of fact, I don't need to go down that road because it's really not part of the answer. But no, I had one other reason why we don't give that information out,
Which I may get to.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead if you wanted to keep going. I was going to say I may ask a similar question down the line if you want to hang on to that.
These are good questions, though. This is exactly the kind of stuff I was hoping for. So thank you to your crew or you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank Johnny for that one. Thanks, Johnny. Okay. Now, can you tell us, or I don't know if you can or not, or if you want to, but I know that you guys have had some pretty famous screeners listen to music through the years. Some of them still screening for you. Some of them have gone on to grandiose careers. Would you feel comfortable telling the names of any of those people for those that are keeping score of their name dropping?
The only one that's ever become a megastar is Katy Perry, who actually had a different name, if memory serves. It was quite some time ago, probably the early 2000s. And she actually called me a year or two before COVID and goes, you know, the day I left, she got a phone call while she was here screening saying, we want to sign you to a major label deal. She'd already been signed to one label and dropped, and the record never came out. So she was still a nobody, said she was the lowest point in her life. She told me that day she called me, she said, I just don't know that I ever really thanked you properly because my head was spinning when I found out that I got that record deal. She's the only one I can think of that ever became like that kind of famous. We've had people that have been vice president of Sony ATV Music as screeners. We've had major label A&R people that are screeners, all, you know, a whole range of people. It depends on the kind of music we're getting in as well, or the kind of listings we have.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Katy Perry's about as big as they get now. Like maybe half a step down from Taylor Swift. I don't know. Maybe right up there.
And here's the interesting thing is she was not screening pop. We actually put the word out that we needed somebody to do Christian and gospel because there aren't a lot of those screeners in LA. And back then, everybody came to screen at the office. And one day, this very pretty young lady, I remember she had like stunningly blue eyes. Like I wanted to ask her, those contacts or those your real eyes? They were real. And she just showed up in a T-shirt and jeans and a baseball hat standing in the lobby. And Matt, I'm telling you, I walked by her and just went, good morning or something like that, you know, just hi. She could have been there for anybody in the staff. And when I walked by her, I got like, ooh, like a little chill. Like I felt this physical thing, like her aura, and trust me, you know me well enough to know I'm not like a woo-woo aura kind of guy.
Yeah.
She had an aura, but she was down home, polite, humble, kept her nose down, her head down, worked really, and she was a great screener. And one day, like 6 months into it, she goes, you could probably use me for pop. I'm pretty good at that. And we tested her, and she was great at it, obviously. And so she was a pop screener for the next 6 or 9 months. And then one day she got a call from the record label, and she just walked in here, sat in the chair that I'm looking at as I'm talking to you, and said, I just got a record deal. She told me, I think it was Jason Flom called her maybe. So I can't screen anymore. But when she called a few years ago, she said, do you know, I was the lowest point in my life. I had no money, and I had to rent a car from Rent-A-Wreck on a daily basis to come up there and screen. But if not for Taxi, I wouldn't be Katy Perry today, because I would have just handed it all, said, that's it, I'm done. But you guys helped me keep food on the table and pay my rent while I was trying to become a pop star. So I was pretty humbled by that. And
wow.
Yeah, Scott Alexander. Does Prescott Niles still scream for Taxi? I don't think he has for a couple of years. I think since COVID, maybe. Anyway, sorry, Matt. I went a little long on that one.
Yeah, no, good answer. Good answer. Okay, now on the topic of screeners, every now and then you guys will run a listing that just invites the masses to submit. It could be one of those things with like $70,000 to $100,000 sync fee, and then you got every Joe Schmo with a keyboard is going to send something in, because for $5 you're shot at $100,000. Like, who's not going to take that chance? But then you also have the listings that seems like every composer just is drawn to, like Ominous Tension. Like, I don't know what it is about Ominous Tension. Everyone does it. And so you're going to have these listings that are incredibly dense with submissions. So if you have a listing that's got a ton, and I don't even know what a ton is, maybe 100 or 2, I don't know what kind of numbers you guys work on, but those big submission listings, do they involve more than one screener, or does one screener do every single track?
That's a great question. I'm really glad that you asked that. It depends is the answer, but I can give you more clarification on that. I think the most we ever got for anything was somewhere around 800 to 1,000 submissions. Yeah, those are rare. Those are really rare. Those are like maybe once or twice a year. But people should understand there's no competition. That's something we see online a lot and hear a lot is, oh my God, they've got so many submissions, my thing will never break through. Doesn't matter. And here's a great example, and I've told this story on Taxi TV. We ran a listing for percussion-only instrumental tracks. You see those getting used a lot, especially like in car commercials, with cars on windy roads, you hear boom, 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 boom. Just plain old percussion. I want to say we got 800 submissions for that one. That was probably the first, like, really whopper that we got in. And my concern wasn't handling the volume of submissions, because at the time, I'm just pulling this number out of the air, but it's probably not inaccurate. We probably had 6 or 8 screeners that were all highly qualified to do instrumental music for film and TV. So any one or all of them could have been pulled in to do it. So 40%, I'm doing this from memory, but 40% got forwarded. So 40% of 800 is 320 things. And I was like, oh my God, we can't send 320 things to a library. I mean, that's for some libraries, that'd be, 10% of their catalog. We reached out to the library owner and said, dude, we've got 320 forwards, but every one of them is really good. You're not going to think that we lowered the bar. So how about if we send them to you like 75 a week over a period of time, so that you don't just stare at this giant pile, freeze up, and go, I'm not going to listen to this. And they went, great solution. So that's what we did. So to further answer your question, the more niche, pardon my French, the more niche a genre is, the fewer screeners we have. The more broad and common a genre is, like pop or TV instrumental, but we don't have screeners that are specifically only tension cue screeners. But we do have some screeners that are really good at big, bombastic, like very official trailer-style orchestral stuff. And these guys, one particular is popping into my head right now. This guy conducts 80 pieces live on a session. He's at that level. And, he still screens for us, not every day, but every now and then, maybe many to, maybe a few dozen times a year. So what I'm trying to say is that we may not pull him in on a tension cue or a dramedy cue because we've got other people that do that. But in general, we have people who are film TV specific and people who are record specific. Very few that cross over.
Cool.
Did I answer that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, you did. So there's a follow-up question to that based on your answer. So knowing that some of these listings do require more screeners just to get through the sheer quantity of them, how can you maintain some type of like screening uniformity when you've got multiple people? So I'm just kind of thinking as I was thinking through this question earlier, if you imagine a show like The Voice where you've got these 4 or 5 judges and they're all masters in the music field, and you got they're all blind, backs are turned, and you got some singer, and within 2 seconds some of them are hitting their button like voting yes and their chair spins around, yada yada yada. But then you got a few judges that are just unimpressed by the whole thing and they never hit their buzzer at all.
It's a great question.
And so that it just comes with, we're clearly talking about people who are exceptional at their craft, but they're hearing things from a subjective lens. And so when you put multiple screeners on one listing, how do you guarantee, or like guarantee is a tough word, but how do you try to maintain the
uniformity,
integrity of the uniformity? Yeah.
That's an incredibly good question. I don't think anybody has ever asked that in all these years, so thank you for that one.
Hey, I'll drink to that. Drinking diet root beer.
Really? Okay, yeah, I'm having coconut water. A game show on TV is different. It's for ratings and it's for being bombastic and exciting. So while somebody turns around and hits that button and somebody else doesn't, that's TV time. That's not reality. Right. Our screeners the context just isn't the same. So if we have somebody, here, you know what? Here's the best way for me to summarize this. Many years ago, probably around 1997, we had so many people back then that were going, oh, I didn't get forwarded. Why don't you have 3 screeners check my thing out? And
Yeah. We need triple check.
Right, exactly. And so we did that for a week or a month or something. It was really hard to execute that with our database and submissions and everything. We had to move a lot of stuff around to do that test. But I figured if enough people are asking about this, or so many people are asking, let's do it. We came up with exactly the same result, but spent 3 times the amount of time screening it to get the same result. The screeners are really good at what they do. We're really careful to put the right people on the right listings. And it's not a matter of what they like or what they don't like. That's what people, if there's one thing I could change about the entire music industry, it's that, as it relates to film and TV, is that people cling to this notion that's a hangover from the record side of the industry. If I just make my thing great, they'll put it in their TV show. You know better. A lot of our more sophisticated or long-time or experienced members know better as well. So really all the screener's doing is deciding, if I were a library owner, would I be happy Taxi sent me this? And does it fit the brief? So it's not a matter of one person goes, I really like this. And somebody else goes, it's pretty good, but I don't like it enough to forward it. It has nothing to do with whether or not they like it. They are using their professional opinion. We used to say, would you walk this into the VP of A&R, put it on their desk, knowing that you are putting your reputation in the industry on the line by doing that? Well, obviously now probably 80% of what we do is film and TV oriented. So the question is, would you give this to a library owner and know that they would think, wow, I'm glad you put that under my nose?
Yeah. Yep. It got me thinking of a similar story. This is a little side tangent here, but
yeah,
I still do a little bit of moonlighting as an adjunct instructor at the community college out here. And I teach Communication 101, and I've been doing this for, a long time. And I've heard, I did the math at one point, something like 4,000 or 5,000 student speeches over the years. And every now and then I'll get one that is typically not very good, and the grade reflects how not good it was. And the student will get upset, and they'll come to me and they'll say, I need to regrade on this thing. You need to look at it again. And I'll say, well, that's exactly why I have you record it in class. So I'm not going to regrade it, but I'll pass it along to the chair of the department, and he can regrade it using my same exact grading rubric. And then you get the grade from him. You choose whichever grade you want. If his comes out better, you can have that grade. If mine comes out better, you can keep mine. And of all the handful of times I've had to do this, the score came out within 1 or 2% of the exact same grade that I gave. And we deduct points for different categories just because we're using the same grading scale, but we heard things a little bit differently. But the overall result was the grade was dang near the exact same thing. And that's two different sets of subjective ears. It's just, after you've been doing something for so long, you have a feel for what is passing the mark and what's not.
Yeah. I mean, look, how many companies would do You're in the A&R Hot Seat live on a YouTube broadcast, but we do that, and we flat out say, after the live viewing audience has voted whether or not they lined up with the screener or not. And the people in the audience are not trained professionals. They don't have 20 years in the industry under their belt. They don't have specific types of experience in the industry. And yet the viewers on those A&R Hot Seat episodes get it about 80, 90% right, sometimes like 95% right with the screener. So it is pretty obvious. If you read the brief, and like I've said a million times, 80% of what doesn't get forward is because people just don't pay attention to what the brief asked for.
Yep.
By the way, somebody mentioned in there, I think it's Jeff LaPlante, we do have a head screener here. And the head screener monitors all this stuff. I mean, I'm not going to say how much he gets paid, but he gets paid well. We don't get a return on that investment. That is just me insisting that we do it with as much integrity as we can and to make sure that we are delivering to our members what we've promised. And we promise professional people doing a really good job deciding, because we're holding their future in our hands. That's a heavy responsibility. So the head screener looks to see, are the screeners forwarding? I would have forwarded that, and the screener didn't. They will talk to the screener. I think you're holding the bar too high. The head screener can and will override the screener if he feels that they were too lenient or not. And it's exceedingly rare that they ever have to do that. So
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, since we're on the subject of screeners, one more question about the screeners specifically. Where are you finding these people, and what are the criteria to be a screener? Or are you just throwing in some intern from UC Davis or like you're out walking the streets of Hollywood and you see the rapper peddling his CD? Hey, you look like you know how to rap. Why don't you come screen some taxi rap listings? So tell us how you find the screeners and what qualifies them to basically judge the music of others.
All kinds of different methodologies have been used to find the screeners. It kind of depends on the, what do you call it, on the genre. Back in the day, the criteria was, it's on, we publish it on our website. I can't remember where, but it's on there. And it says you have to either have worked in A&R at a major or major indie record label. I can't remember now. You have to have worked at a music library, been a music supervisor. You have to have a credible history in the industry. And I will tell you flat out, we probably have one or two screeners at any moment in time that aren't that lofty, but their specific expertise actually makes them better than somebody that might have a 10-year resume at a record label. Here's an example. Somebody who was the assistant to a music supervisor. All the music comes through that assistant, literally, and they're the ones that are deciding what the music supervisor is going to hear or not hear. So that person has had to apply their judgment to music for television for a very long time, 2, 3, 4 years. So would I hire that person even though their resume is, I've been an assistant? Yes. Have we ever had, we have never once, ever, in 33 years, ever had an intern. And I will also tell you conversely, I won't even mention what, we had a woman that was the VP of publishing at one of the top biggest 3 publishers in the world. Everybody would know the name of the company. I'm not going to mention it right now because it could get back to her that I'm talking to her about. Talking about her like this. She was not a great screener. She was good at deciding what got forwarded and what didn't. But like many publishers on the record side of the industry, all they had to do was go, this song hits me or it doesn't. It's a hit or it's not. Excellent publishers will be able to sit down with their writers and say, dude, your pre-chorus just doesn't feel like it's from the same song. Maybe if you went to a minor 7th there, it would give a little more lift and impact when you go into the chorus. That's what a really good publisher is capable of doing. This woman was clearly from the I know how to pick a hit gang. So our members suffered because she wasn't giving good advice. So the head screener for years had to rewrite those critiques to better say what she should have been able to.
Okay.
So that's kind of the range. The people are all picked. We find them now, I would say currently, we reach out to the existing screeners. Hey, do you know anybody? We need one more person that can do dramedy, tension, the typical, kind of common genres of music libraries. And we'll send an email out to the 6 or 8 or 10 people that do that sort of work for Taxi. Do you know anybody else? And sometimes it's a composer who's really good, who's got stuff. You would make an excellent screener. See, there's an example. You don't have a resume except for the fact that you have more than 30,000 placements. But you would be, if you called me up and said, I've fallen on hard times. I need to make some extra money. Could I screen at Taxi? We would say yes to that because the knowledge that you would bring to bear for our members would be incredible. So, yes, have you ever been vice president of Universal Production Music? No, you haven't. You might actually be a better screener than that person.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I'll be sending my resume in. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. You have hinted, or you've actually told us the answer to this one already, but I'm going to just rephrase the question here. And first, I'm going to go back in time. So when I first joined Taxi, it was 2008, believe it or not. And I didn't really get any forwards for quite a few years, but it was by about 2011 or 2000, actually it's probably more like 2012 is when I started to get forwards kind of regularly. And back in those days, this was 13 years ago, we'd get the email from Taxi that said, "Congratulations, your music has been forwarded to," and then it would say the name of the music library. And that dropped off as a standard practice. I don't know when I noticed it being gone, but probably at least 5 or 6 years, maybe longer.
Oh yeah, it's probably 10 years or more.
Okay, probably 10.
I
10
can tell
years.
you
Okay.
exactly when it was. When Google became ubiquitous, that's when we had to stop. Because the reason we don't do it is people were Googling, Tom Snow at Capitol Records, picking up the phone. We had one incident where, if this was the question, sorry, I jumped ahead.
This is what I'm getting at, is why don't you tell us the names of who's getting the music?
The best example I can give of how that went very, very badly was that a member was forwarded to a woman who at the time was arguably the #1 music supervisor for blockbuster movies. And I'd been after her for 3 or 4 years, and finally she said, "Fine, you know what? You're persistent, I'll give you that. I will run a listing with your dinky little company and see if you can find me something that doesn't embarrass you." And we ran a listing, found some really good stuff. We sent it to her, and we notified the 9 members or whatever the number was of people that got forwarded to her. And one of the members Googled her and got her home phone number. It didn't say it was her home phone number, presumably, and called her at like 10 o'clock at night on a Friday night. "Hi, my name is Bob Smith. Taxi forwarded my music to me. Are you going to put it in your movie or not?" And she goes, "Who are you again? How did you get my home number? Why are you calling me Friday night, 10 o'clock, my home number?" And he started cursing her out. And she laid into me on Monday morning and said, "That's it. I will never, ever run another listing with your company." We've had a couple of really big blow-ups like that caused by members doing really dopey stuff. So, it's one thing if we say you were forwarded to Capitol Records. How are you going to get past the receptionist? I guess somebody who's really on their game could pull up, here's the list of A&R people at Capitol Records, and find each of their numbers and try and email them or call them each. So for those reasons, because it's really easy to be sleuthy now, we just can't do it.
Yeah.
Wish we could.
Well, understandable. There's always a few bad apples that ruin it for the whole bunch.
Yes,
But
there
that's
are.
the way it goes. Yep. Okay, so here's another one with a little bit of a ramp up, a little preamble to this one. And I was going to do a bit of research before this question, and I didn't get around to it, so I'm going to spitball some stuff off the top of my head. But about 2 years ago, I would go get my daughter these little Totino's pizzas. The square ones that, it's a stretch to even call it pizza, but
right. It's like a little miniature pocket thing that would fit in a tablespoon. Those?
No, those are the pizza rolls that
okay.
might be made by the same company, Totino's. But Totino's pizzas are these square pizzas, about, yay big, a foot by a foot maybe.
Okay.
And they're really not all that good, but my daughter really liked them, and they were 99 cents just a couple of years ago. And then inflation started really kicking in, and those pizzas are now $1.98. So they have doubled in price. And that's over the course of 2 years. And if you look at the price of eggs, we even need to talk about eggs.
I actually saw eggs for $13.95 a week ago for a dozen.
God. Yeah.
They should have been golden eggs.
Yeah, for that much. Yeah, it better be Easter eggs. They should have some fancy design on them for that much money. Now, why I'm saying this is inflation has skyrocketed the price of everything in this world in a very short amount of time. But for the 16 years I've been a Taxi member, the prices have not even gone up by a penny. And this is going to sound like I'm just like pumping you up with like all sorts of compliments here, but you've not raised prices despite inflation ratcheting up prices of everything else. So is Taxi like the only inflation-proof business in the whole world, or are you essentially bending over and like losing profits because everything else is so expensive? Like, how are you able to stay on the same pricing structure for so long?
33 years. The same pricing structure for 33 years.
You've never changed prices.
I have never changed the prices. Part of it is because I'm afraid to change prices because people already think $300 a year. I mean, people who say that, I want to smack them upside the head and go, think about all the stuff you're getting for $300 a year. You go drop $2,800 on a guitar in a minute. And I have yet to ever meet a guitar that ever built a career for anybody, but that's a whole other thing. A lot of it comes down to we've been able to provide a higher level of service, better listings, better turnarounds, better everything, honestly, because of efficiencies. We pay attention to that stuff. We also reduced, we had an office that was 4,400 square feet. But when we first moved in here 20-some years ago, we had 3 people that occupied the biggest room in the office suite. It did nothing but I'm looking for a prop. It did nothing but cut open manila envelopes and padded envelopes, take out the burritos, which was a cassette or a CD with the paperwork wrapped around it. Inevitably, every single one had the vital information on the inside, so they had to take the rubber band off, flatten out the paper, re-roll the burrito, and then hand type the entry in the database. So we had 3 people that occupied a room that's probably 12 by 20 feet, so 240 square feet just for those 3 people to open envelopes, and 3 salaries. And back then they were probably making, I couldn't even venture a guess, but probably around $100,000 a year just to open envelopes. We don't have that anymore.
Right.
We've become better at our marketing spend. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, people never think about this stuff, but health insurance, just all kinds of stuff that people don't think about. So the answer is mostly through efficiencies. And frankly, right now, I personally am taking a fraction of what I've made in really good years. And that's so that we don't have to raise the prices on people when people can't even afford to buy food for their families or put gas in their tank.
Yeah.
And like I've had good years, I've had bad years, and I'll survive just fine. And I figure, that if we can help by not raising prices for musicians to be able to feed their families, yay, I can suck it up for a few years, but that economy better turn around. I don't know.
Well, it's just so commendable, man. Because everything else, the prices are just going through the roof. So I think people would fully expect you to follow suit with that. And the fact that you are willing to sacrifice your own income for the benefit of the members that's just commendable, man. Well, it's like you and the Costco hot dogs for $1.50. That's the only things that have not changed.
Yeah, it's and I'm not trying to do it for any self-aggrandizement or anything, but frankly, I do. But to be perfectly honest, I worry that if we raise the price even $50 a year, how many fewer members would we have?
Right. You might lose money in the long run.
Yeah. And we're taking a hit right now with every other, when you're a small business owner, you tend to be friends with other small business owners. And I've got a friend that owns a pizza shop. Their business is down over 40%. I've got a friend who's a dentist. The second time I've walked in his office in the last 90 days or so, I was the only patient under the roof, where it used to be 4 bays, 4 patients. So even things like dentists are being affected. It's not just big corporations. It is mostly mom and pops. And we've ridden out the 2008 recession. We've had other things, a massive lawsuit many years ago. It had nothing to do with music, by the way, just if anybody's worried about that. But that cost a fortune and sucked 5 years out of my life. So I don't know. Maybe I'm goofy. Maybe I should just say, oh, hell with it, and raise the price $100. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think people would totally understand, but you're right. You probably lose more money in the long run by people abandoning ship. I don't know. I'm not a business guy. What the heck do I know?
Well, you've become one to an extent over the years.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah.
Well, in your part of the world, you understand that business very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. There are currently quite a few listings for indie film needing fill in the blank. Like I was looking through the listings the other day, and there's quite a few of them right now. There's like a faith-based movie that needed something to do with faith, and there's a lot of listings from that particular movie. And if we all know those are coming from one source, it's pretty easy to tell that those have to all be coming from the same movie, unless there's like 7 different faith-based movies all being made at the same time, which is possible. But I guess my question is, for something that's very specific like that, what are the odds that a Taxi member actually makes it into the movie, knowing that these companies may be sourcing music from many other places?
The highest probability of Taxi members getting placed comes with those independent films, by far. Honestly, the person running that listing has brought several films into us. I think originally I hired him as a screener probably 3 or 4 years before COVID, because he understands film and TV music. He's a musician. He didn't have a resume that said, I worked at Universal Production Music, but he was actually in the trenches finding music for the films he was working on. And I can't remember if there was a strike going on or something, and we hired him. We test all these guys to make sure that they're choosing the right stuff, number one, and able to explain why they didn't forward somebody in a helpful, productive way. He passed the test with flying colors. A good case of somebody that didn't have exactly the right resume, but was probably better than a lot of people who did, like way better. So out of gratitude to us, I think to an extent, he continues. He's back in the movie-making business, and he works with several directors on their films, and he works in a producer position. He always says to them, you should source your music from Taxi. It's better than what you'll find anywhere. And it just keeps coming back for more and more. And I've got to tell you, Matt, I'm surprised if I've never told you this before, but a lot of the films, the ones he's brought in and other people, it's not just him bringing them in or running those listings. I would say that in most cases, that if they need 11 pieces of music for that film, 7 of them will be from Taxi members, maybe 9 of them. Our Taxi members end up occupying the majority of the slots in the indie movies we run listings for. And I will also further tell you that we actually send out at least 100 emails a month. We know how to identify who's looking or who will be looking soon, and figure out what they're probably looking for and reach out to them. And I would say it's a safe and fair statement to say we have to reach out to at least 100 people having done that research to get one response. And that's just a response. Doesn't mean that they'll run listings. But yes, the answer to your core question is more Taxi members by percentage end up in indie films that we forward them for probably than any other type of listing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, that was kind of an oddly specific question on my end, but surprising and cool answer.
Yeah, if I could, I would run 80% of our listings as indie films. And that's what we are actively, like I've talked to the general manager at the Westin LAX, where we do the Road Rally, about doing an event just for indie filmmakers in that 200-seat theater. They don't know. Indie filmmakers think, they tend to use royalty-free music because they are of the misguided belief that if I make a movie and I put 10 songs in it, that every quarter I'm going to have to send a check to Matt Vander Boegh and the other 9 people. They don't understand that it's the PROs that pay the musicians. So they need a serious education so that they can find better music. And they will almost all tell you that they're very unhappy with the music that they get from most of the royalty-free libraries. So the first time they run a listing with Taxi, after we educate them and tell them you don't have to write quarterly checks, they're like, holy crap, I can't believe how close your members got it, how perfect, just they love us. And they almost always come back for their next film, which, by the way, might not happen for 3 or 4 years from now.
Right. Yeah. You don't just churn these things out like articles in a newspaper.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to now move on to perhaps some little deeper questions.
I thought those were pretty deep. But okay.
Yeah, they were pretty deep. But I had those under the heading of general taxi questions.
Wow. I can't.
So
now I'm scared.
Deeper questions. Okay. So I know, and you know, and I would assume most people watching the show that are familiar with taxi and you know that you and your company is extremely transparent. There's really nothing that you hide away from or keep from members. But there is this one area where there's kind of a veil of secrecy, and we've already talked about it, which is where music gets forwarded to. Mm-hmm. And you've done a good job explaining why that has to be kept, why people have to be kept in the dark on that. But that does lead to this pervasive mindset, suspicion that taxi might be a scam. So that people will oftentimes get forwards. Believe it or not, people do get forwards, which is hard to believe if you're if you're new and you're just getting nothing but returns. But getting a forward is kind of the first step. But then a library has to contact you if they actually want to sign that piece of music. And a lot of times people get excited because they got the forward and they know their music was sent to somebody, but they don't know where. And then days or weeks and months might go by and they never hear from anybody. They're checking their junk folders, they're checking the spam, they're checking everything in their email box, thinking maybe I've missed something, but they just don't hear anything. So how can you, as the owner of this company, assure people that you're not just taking their $5, listening to music, and then running off with that $5 and not doing a darn thing with the music?
I can understand why they might think that, but if they did even the most basic amount of research, they would see taxi members that are signing deals all the time and getting placements all the time and crowing about how grateful they are that taxi introduced them to sync, taught them how to do sync, taught them how to do the business side of sync. And now, like yourself, you earn your entire living doing sync, and you thankfully credit taxi with being the launching pad for all that. How could that be in the same world where we're not forwarding the music?
Right.
It's just that simple. There's so much evidence out there. But most of the people that say that publicly are people who never bother to check anything out. They've probably never even been to the taxi website. I heard there's a company called Taxi. They charge musicians money to be a middleman. Therefore, they must be evil. Oh, well.
Yeah. We're going to get to some of those later.
We might have to go an extra half hour.
yeah, I'm going to have to speed this one up. So let me kind of run through some. But this one's kind of a little bit more long-winded, but it's on this same note.
Okay.
So back when I was in college, I took Philosophy 101. It was just a class everyone had to take as a communication major. And we had this writing assignment where our really oddball teacher, the prompt for the essay was, I know I am not an android, but how do I know you are not an android? And he said this in this really weird philosophy type tone. You know, this was like 1998, 1999. I don't think anyone uses the word android anymore. Like, this was clearly way before AI.
I have an Android phone.
It was a very interesting assignment because it made you think about how you convince someone else you're real when that other person might be predisposed to think you're a fake or a phony. And so to take this a little bit further, if I went to my very first road rally back in, I believe it was 2011, and I was there with a girlfriend of mine at the time, and she was a taxi skeptic from the jump. Like, I'm very naive. I'm very trusting and optimistic. I don't think anyone's necessarily out to scam people. I know it does happen, but I give people the benefit of the doubt. So I'd signed up for taxi and I was super excited. And she was the cynic saying, oh, this just seems like a scam. So I was like, well, why don't you go to this conference with me? So we went to the conference, and you had, in this year, there was a successful members panel where you had a handful of people on stage talking about their successes. And I don't know why I remember this. This is like one of those flashbulb memories that just sticks in your head. But Paul Otten was on stage, who I didn't know, and a guy named Paul Coughlin.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know any of these people. I still don't know Paul Coughlin. Don't ask me why I even remember his name. I went on to do some work with Paul Otten. We made some music together, but Paul Coughlin, no idea. But his name is in my head, and he shared a story of how he'd gotten music on a tampon commercial, of all things, and he got paid like $7,000 to have his music on a tampon commercial. And he shared the story of how you guys kind of helped him facilitate the deal to get him more money than the company was actually offering him in the beginning.
He might have explained, legally, we cannot negotiate a deal without getting into trouble. So
I think you've given him some advice or something.
I may have given him some advice, but I definitely didn't get on the phone and say, give this guy more money.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to make it sound that way.
If I get handcuffed by the FBI when we're done with this, it's only your fault.
Yeah. Oh, them ICE agents, man, they're going to show up at your door. Anyways, where I'm going with this story is, even after watching all the success stories at the road rally at this one particular panel, I was all jazzed up about it because it's super motivating to me. But my girlfriend was just sure that you were paying these people to say a bunch of nonsense. She said, if I remember right, they were either paid by you, or they were up there lying about everything, or failing those two things. The third option was that they were just your favorites, and so you were helping out your people. So there is like a level of cynicism and skepticism, and I don't even know what it is, and I don't know how you get through to these people. Like, you bring me on Taxi TV quite frequently, and I've done videos, and I've tried to make it abundantly clear that I've never been paid by you to say anything.
Yeah, just for those tuning in late, I didn't ask you to do any of those videos on your YouTube channel. I was as surprised as anybody.
One guy popped up on my YouTube comments, and he's like, "You're a paid shill. How much you getting paid by Taxi to say this stuff?" I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I guess there are some people you just can't break through to. But if anyone's on the fence thinking that Taxi might be a scam, how do you assure them that these success stories are real and not just some BS paid bogus testimonial?
There are a couple of ways. They could go search IMDb for the people that bother to load their stuff on IMDb. They could watch credits. I watched the movie Anora over the weekend, which won the Oscar. And there were several Taxi members, people who become lots of Taxi members. Now, we didn't run listings for that movie, but those people, here's a great example. Owen Shame and
Marcus or Terrell.
Yeah, Marcus, Terrell. They all know each other because of Taxi.
Yeah.
First of all, I bet none of them had ever done anything, made a note for sync music, earned a penny doing sync before Taxi turned them on to sync and educated them about it, then provided the road rally, the forum, and Taxi TV so they could meet each other, so they could understand the value of collaboration. I got a really nice email on LinkedIn, I think, from Britt Fox, Taxi member, who sang one of the songs that landed.
She had some in there too.
Yeah, well, she was singing on it, I think, on a song that Marcus wrote and produced. Okay. So there's all this stuff. The cynics don't want to know the truth, and there's a reason for that. The reason is because they are so unconfident about their own abilities. And, it's really easy to say, yeah, I'm working on some music. It's a lot harder to say, I finished it. What do you think of it? So the minute they finish stuff, then people can judge it. Well, the minute that people join Taxi, they put themselves in a position to be judged. So it's just much easier to go, it's a scam. They don't get for. There's so much evidence out there to the contrary that anybody that did the least amount of research could blow that there. By the way, give me that girl's home address. I need to talk to your ex-girlfriend, maybe 2 or 3 of them. But anyway, honestly, it's upsetting to me. We work so hard to be incredibly transparent and provide a service that's unparalleled in this world, in the history of the music industry. And yet there are these people out there, and I've given it way more thought than I should. It's probably taken a couple of years off my life from the stress that it causes me. But in the end, I think that's not an unrealistic reason. It's when a guy and a girl break up, it's really easy for one or the other to say, oh, that a-hole or that B. You know what I mean? They blame the other person so that they don't have to take ownership or responsibility for what they might have contributed to make that relationship fall apart. I believe the same is true for people that go out there and are cynical and skeptical about Taxi and bash it. I always say, whenever I see people doing it online, I say, put your music up. People say, I was a Taxi member for 6 months. Nothing happened for me. Great. Let's hear your music.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think I've had 3 people do that in 33 years. And the ones who did were sorry they did because their music sucked, quite frankly.
Yep. It makes sense. If I go back to that example I gave earlier about judging student speeches, the most recent time that someone was complaining about their grade and I gave them the option to present their video to another teacher, the chair of the department, he's like, I guess I'm okay with it, but I still don't agree. He didn't want to share it because he knew deep down that was a crappy speech that got an F because it deserved the F.
I'm not saying I'm better than any of those people because it's tough to face your own reality.
It is. Yep. And a lot of people don't have the stomach for it. And so they'll just turn to insults or, just degrade the people that are just trying to help. So I just got a text from Chuck. He's saying, thank God I didn't wear a wife beater. Well, I almost did. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, let's move on. Okay. Now here's a deep one. You've been running Taxi for 33 years and none of us are getting any younger. I don't think anybody expects you to run this company until the day you die, which hopefully is
starting to look that way
down the road. But I guess, have you given any thought to this of what Taxi would look like in a post Michael Laskow world? Is it the same company? Is it a different company? Like, what does it look like?
I would like it to.
That's
have
like thinking about your own mortality, kind of. So that's
a
bizarre question.
I don't want to be wheeled up on stage for the road rally using a walker or a wheelchair. Welcome to the 38th road rally. I don't want to be doing Taxi. It's 4:00 on a Monday. Someday I'm going to have to do it just because I would look too physically old and be too physically old. Maybe some of the reason I haven't retired yet is I've worked too long and hard, as has the staff here. We take tremendous pride in what we do. We've changed the world without sounding, what's the opposite of humble? Whatever that is.
Braggadocious?
Yeah, think about it. Independent musicians like you didn't get your music in film and TV or libraries or anything until Taxi.
There would have been no chance. Yeah.
So I feel like we've got a legacy that we have to live up to. I had one guy that I hired that was, when I hired him, I said, I'm hoping to groom you to be the heir apparent. He lived far away from here and was getting home 10, 11 o'clock at night. And his wife said, we got a second kid on the way. It's either us or that company. So he quit. In my perfect world, it would be 4 or 5 Taxi members that people not unlike yourself that really understand how the industry works, what the ethos of the company is, and know how much we take pride in how well and fairly we treat our members. I would love to have a council of former members that would run the company someday. I don't know. I don't have a good answer other than I don't want to be wheeled up to the stage for the road rally.
Yeah.
We have a second home. It's an apartment in another country right now that I really enjoy spending time at. Unfortunately, it's 10 hours ahead of LA, so it's not optimal for running the company remotely. I think as long as I can go over there for a month or two at a time, a couple times a year, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a semi-retirement, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine the company being in any other hands other than yours. But also there is reality. Like, you got to enjoy some type of retirement life at some point. Anyways, I thought that would be an interesting question. As
I'm trying to think. It's funny that you mentioned this because I just thought, like, James Koshin, you, Marcus, you guys all get it. Could you imagine what this company would be like if I retired and you guys were like the board of directors?
It'd be big shoes to fill.
Well, I think you guys would fill them maybe better than I filled them myself. Anyway.
Okay. Well, good
Great
enough.
question.
It's good to hear you to say all that, because that means you haven't really thought about getting out of your own company yet. Because I probably speak for everybody, although this is my own personal opinion, but I just think you are the company and we all love you. And
thank you.
Yeah.
I hope that the company would do well or better. Honestly, if you put a 9mm up to my temple and said, what is your hope for the company? I hope that somebody can do it better than I've done it.
Yeah.
I really honestly do. Maybe I need to adjust my ego or something, and I'm not that egoless, but I want this company to thrive. Just that simple.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Moving on for the sake of time. AI is a pretty big point of debate and contention and everything else nowadays. I'm going to be put on full disclosure here. I've never used AI for anything. I've heard ChatGPT, don't know what it is. It's an app on your phone. I know nothing about AI. So I'm in just my own little ignorance is bliss bubble here, just making my own music while other people are talking about AI is going to take our jobs and yada, yada, yada. Since that is such a point of debate these days, how can Taxi judge or verify whether a composer used AI in the music that they made? Because I mean, we see so many listings now that say you can't have any AI in the creation of this music. Like, that's a disclaimer that you run on a lot of listings now.
Yeah.
But that's going to be largely policed by the honor system.
Surprisingly,
or
the screeners the screeners seem to have a knack. I'm going to be completely honest. I was surprised. But one day I walked into the A&R room and they said, "Hey, we just found some guy that submitted a boatload of stuff and it was all AI." And then a few days later, somebody submitted stuff that was AI. A few days later, somebody submitted stuff that was AI. There are telltale signs. I don't think it's a perfect world where we're going to catch 100%. Maybe the libraries will, but I can tell you what, anybody that uses AI right now and is deceptive in their use of AI, if they get found out by the library or they get exposed by a network, whatever the circumstances, I think that they would be blacklisted in the industry. And my personal view on AI is that in order to effectively make music with AI, you have to be a musician that can write the right prompts for AI. I could not, I should disqualify my wife. She's been on the periphery of Taxi or working at the company for too many years. But I could go pick somebody out of the parking lot at my office and say, come up here, I'm going to sit you down in front of Suno or Udio, create music using this AI. And they would go, make a pretty pop song that sounds like Madonna. I think we might be having an earthquake just then. I don't know, I heard the building crack.
No way.
Had one last night while I was actually working on some taxi stuff last night, sitting in our family room.
Really?
Had a 4.0. Anyway.
Live in California.
Yeah. The point being that one day, I'll make this short, but we should go long because I'm really enjoying this. You're asking me great stuff that nobody's ever asked me. If I went out to dinner with my daughter's in-laws one night, and the father said, check this out. I made a song using this thing called Udio or Suno, whatever it was, for our 13-year-old daughter for her birthday. And it was, and it said, they gave it prompts like, make a cute little pop song about a girl who loves selling Girl Scout cookies, hiking, and ballet class. And sure enough, what came out a million times better than what he could make because he's not a musician. Mm-hmm. But to him, it sounded as good as what's on the radio. To anybody with any ear at all would go, that's cute, but it's a cheap fake. So I made a track one day. I told, I think it was Suno, make like a tension cue. And it did. And I brought the guys from the A&R department into my office. And I played it for them. And they all were like, it'll never work. This is never going to take anybody's job, blah, 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 blah. It did have the best string sound I've ever heard, short of being in a room with a live orchestra. And I've recorded many live orchestras, so I know what they sound like. After they left, I thought, well, what about if I tell it to do 2 bars of sparse, add another instrument for the next 2 bars, add a second or third instrument for the next 2 bars, then break it all down, flip the chord progression for the next 2 bars, and then come out of that, repeat the process from bar 0 to wherever, and then give it, a stinger ending, blah, blah, blah. I gave it those specific arrangement and production instructions in the prompt, and what it came back with was very impressive, other than the instruments then didn't sound good. But It made a really good cue. And I realized garbage in, garbage out. But you know what? Musicians will be able to use it as a tool, but I don't think they'll be able to fool anybody, certainly not for the next, for the near future, maybe even the mid future. I don't know. But is it great for mastering? Yes. Is it stealing mastering engineers' work from them and their income? Absolutely. So there's that. And we're going to have to cross this line of, do I use it as a tool to make a great bass sound? Could I use it? Nobody right now wants you to use it to build a harmony stack or sing a vocal. Matt Vander Boegh having a female vocal that he didn't hire a vocalist on one of your tracks. So I think that there are ways to use it very effectively right now. The problem is, it's a gray area and a slippery slope, and people go, well, it's okay if I can use it to build a harmony stack. I could also use it to compose the piece. So,
right. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So now I want to get, really quickly, are there any technological breakthroughs that you guys are embracing that might completely transform the company? And this is a question from my music group, and the background of this is, in your early days as a company, you had people send in those cassette burritos. There's a cassette tape wrapped in the paper submission form with the rubber band. You mailed it in. Well, that's gone the way of the dodo, and now everything's digital submissions. At least I don't suppose you're getting any of those mailed cassettes anymore. But that was kind of a transformative thing that changed your whole business model. Is there anything else like that on the horizon? Not really. I can't really say it's a technological breakthrough. I mean, we'll see how AI goes. If there's any way for us to make the submission process easier using AI, to make the sending of music to the industry people easier, faster, better using AI. Those are the types of things that I would look to AI for.
I opened the Road Rally this year by talking about something that we've done a considerable amount of work on, but I haven't given the absolute green light on it yet. As a matter of fact, number 4 on my call list today is for our programming guy, a thing called the Taxi Garage. So if I may, because this ain't going to be a short answer, but I'll try really hard to keep it short. The biggest problem our members have with us as a company is getting a critique back that says this is really a pretty good piece of music, but it's not what the listing asked for. Well, you go to a restaurant and order a cheeseburger and they bring you out a Caesar salad. It's a great Caesar salad, but it's not the cheeseburger I asked for. So it frustrates us when we hear great music that doesn't get forwarded, but we can't send them a Caesar salad. So the Taxi Garage, as we're calling it right now, will be an online database of music that members submit without a specific listing. And the only criteria will be, is this above the quality bar, and can we imagine that some library would take it? Because as you well know, Library A might do mostly songs and montages on dramatic TV, whereas Library B has never touched a song in its life and only does instrumental music on reality TV and everything in between those two. But so members will submit the same fee they do now, but the screener will only be listening to, would some library out there want to add this to their catalog, and is it good enough? And if it is, it gets added to the garage, all broken down by genres, of course. The public doesn't see it. The members don't see it. And the industry people, the library clients, and presumably maybe even some supervisors, can only see it if we let them in. Number one, they will have to earn the right to look at it by reporting deals back to us that they get placements with taxi members, because they suck at it, as do our members. I will say that publicly. And this way, if a company knows that they need a certain kind of music, but they know there's not enough time to find it by running a taxi listing that doesn't, work with their timeline, they could call our A&R department or email and say, do you guys have any bluegrass with a female vocal? And we can't run a listing, but we can go into the Taxi Garage and look for bluegrass female vocal. We can also send out a weekly or bi-monthly or monthly email to all of our clients, which are, any point in time somewhere between 15 and 30, let's say a couple of dozen active clients, and say, hey guys, we just uploaded 131 tracks in the garage, and these are the genres you should go check out. So the bottom line is the members that have great music that doesn't get forwarded because it doesn't meet the requirements of the brief can now be where they get exposed to the people who need them. The people who need music but don't have the luxury of time to run a taxi listing can find music in a hurry. The one caveat is that when they hear something they want, your name is not going to go on the track. It's going to have a title, but they won't be able to reach out to you directly unless they go through taxi. And the reason that we're doing it that way is the libraries never tell us when they sign people, and rarely do the members ever tell us when they get a deal. Hey, you've wanted to be in the music industry for the last 25 years. You just landed your stuff in a great catalog and you haven't bothered to tell us. Thanks a lot, bucko. So this solves problems for everybody. We've thought through a lot of the wireframing of it, stuff like that. And at this point, the Road Rally got in the way, and I just didn't take care of it. So number 4 on my call list today is to get the wheels turning on that again.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty big development.
Yeah.
That's a huge addition to the offering. It's just, it's right up there with moving from cassette tapes, submission burritos to digital submissions. Like, it's pretty transformative.
Jeff LaPlante says opening up to supervisors may be problematic because it takes libraries out of the equation. I should clarify, and I'm glad you brought that up to give me the opportunity to clarify. Supervisors that we work on the indie films with, are we going to go after? We're not going to try and compete with the libraries that have used us for many years. So thanks for asking, Jeff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love that idea of forcing the libraries into letting you know when they're signing things. And this was another thing I was going to get to at some point, which I guess we can just get into it now, is there are so many good things happening from taxi members getting forwards that lead to deals, that lead to placements, that lead to lots of money. But by and large, I think those people that are seeing a lot of success are quietly getting the success and just hunkering down and doing the work. So their days are filled with working because they are busy and in demand. And as a result, they don't have the time to broadcast their success. Whereas a quick Google search for taxi will give you all this garbage from disgruntled members who have plenty of time on their hands because they never got any success with their music. And it's always like, whether it's restaurant reviews or student reviews or product reviews, it always seems like the people that have a bad experience are the only ones that write the review. And
Right.
so that's out there just tarnishing the reputation of something that could have been very, very good. But now you got this person with an axe to grind, probably because they didn't do something right. And now they're just throwing out all these myths and misinformation. And
It's
and
easier than, owning up to it.
Yep, it is. So with that in mind, I wanted to read some things that I found on the internet that we can get a good laugh out of together.
Oof.
And then we can critique these statements. I don't know who wrote these. Some of them I found on YouTube. Some of them I found on Reddit. I mean, these are faceless at this point. Okay, so this first one says, I have serious reservations based on my and others' experiences. From reviews that point out very subjective things about instruments and mix to just overall bad reviewing, the people who are reviewing, in my opinion, not worth the money you are expecting to pay both yearly and per submission. Plus, they have their favorites who are going to get the best offers. There is no avoiding this. To become one of their favored writers or producers is a long-term proposition. That was kind of a long one, but yeah, I was like, what do you say to that? My favorite part in there is, plus they have their favorites who are going to get the best offers. Which goes
They
back
just
to,
make that stuff up in their brain. Matt,
Yeah.
you've been a member for 16 years. You're an all-star sync composer that libraries reach out to directly all the time, yet you still remain a member, and on occasion you still submit. And do you get forwarded every time because you're Matt Vander Boegh?
No, in fact, I should just tell everybody, just to humble myself and let you know that I'm no different from anybody else. I went on a little submission bender the other night, maybe like a month ago, where I hadn't submitted anything for a while, but I had one song that I made specifically for a listing. Me and a friend, Gwendolyn, we put a song together. So I submitted that, and I was like, I'll just look through these other listings and see what's up. Oh, I'll send some in for that. Oh, hey, I'll send some in for that. And before you know it, I was up to like 15 submissions, just
Wow.
like going on an Amazon
Wow, it's like
tear.
new memberitis right there from a guy who's not a new member.
I never really do that, but I was just like, I hadn't submitted anything for a while. Let's just throw some out there. And they were all, it was all existing music that I had written before. Okay, so when the results started trickling in,
that was the important statement right there.
Yeah,
Yes.
the one thing that got forwarded was the song that me and Gwendolyn wrote specifically for the listing. That one got forwarded.
Kind of
The
proves
rest
that
of
the
them-
system works, right?
Yeah, the rest of them, I may have gotten one or two forwards out of the bunch, but it was probably 12 or 13 returns out of that. And if you doubt me, I'll take a screenshot of my submission portal, throw it in the forums or something. So yeah, just like, I don't want to say that my name carries weight. Some people know who I am, some people don't, but certainly the screeners don't give one hoot who you are. See, your music either works or it doesn't.
Right. Yeah, we
so
can't
it's as
forward
simple as
you for something where you didn't hit the nail on the head because you're Matt Vander Boegh. We just can't.
Yeah. Okay. So here's another one. This is kind of funny. I've tried taxi 2 times at different points in my journey. I managed to get 1 forward, but no placement out of 10 or so submissions. Admittedly, my music wasn't as polished as it is now, but I doubt I'll take another shot. What do you say to that guy?
I attempted to run the marathon twice and didn't complete it. I don't know. It's like
perfect. Yeah.
So that must be Adidas' fault because of the sneakers. I don't know. I mean, come on, people.
In there, I managed to get one forward, but no placement. He probably means a signing through a library. Out of 10 or so submissions, like 2 years, you only submitted 10 things?
And
what did you expect was going to happen?
Well, probably in his mind, because people can be delusional and not know the reality of the industry they want to be part of. In his mind, if anybody hears that music, they're instantly going to understand how incredibly good he is. How could anybody hear it and not sign them or not use it? So therefore, if that doesn't happen, it can only be the fault of Taxi.
Yep. Sure couldn't be anything else.
Yeah.
Let's
People
see.
freak me out.
Here's a fun one. I don't even have to look it up to say it's not worth it. People should be paying you to try and sync your music, not the other way around. I mean, do we even need to comment on that one?
I can't get to something I want to get to because it's sitting behind my green screen. It'll throw off the whole color balance and everything if I drop the green screen to get it. But for many years, hey, Liz, would you run in Angel's office in the cabinet? There's that 8.5 by 11 brochure with the red cover and the black and white edging on it. Grab that and bring it to me, please. I'm going to show you something just to show you how upfront we are about that. What was the question again?
Oh, where was I at? Oh, I don't even have to look it up to say it's not worth it.
Oh.
People should be paying you to try and sync your music, not the other way around.
Right. Come on, Liz. Where are you?
Michael, do you want me to finish with one more question after this? We're already over time. I'll stay on as long as you want, but
I'm thinking that you're asking incredibly good questions. So if people want to call it a night, I understand, but keep going as long as you feel like it, because nobody has ever asked me these questions.
Good. That was I was hoping for that.
I think you're doing an amazing job. Anyway, Liz clearly must be in the ladies' room or something. So the bottom line is, for about 20 years, we had a brochure that went out in the mail that said the second best way to get a record, publishing, or film and TV deal. And you open it up, and the very first paragraph says the best way to get a record or publishing or film and TV deal is to do the legwork yourself. However, do you have a job, a family, a mortgage, blah, 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 that prevents you from doing all that stuff? If you do, Taxi could be a good solution for you. So, you can do your own taxes, but most people hire an accountant. You can do your own legal work. Do you want to do the research? There are a lot of things a lot of things you can do on your own. It's a matter of convenience.
Yep, which brings me to a comment that I got on one of my YouTube videos. A guy who I believe he's pretty accomplished. I don't know who he is, but judging from his...
Hang on one second. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
The one with all the Taxi paraphernalia.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay,
Anyways, this guy who seemed to be fairly accomplished reached out with a comment and said, why not just reach out to libraries directly? And that was in response to my Taxi video. And my response to him was, well, look, I'm not trying to sign you up. I'm telling you what worked for me.
Yeah.
And gosh, I'm not a pitchman for Taxi, but if it worked for me, it can probably work for other people too.
You got to do the math. How much is your time value worth? Do you have, how many hours would you spend Googling libraries, determining which libraries are the right one for you? Because most people don't even know what to look for. They are ignorant of the rules of the game. Thank you. And so they would be finding the wrong libraries to send their style of music to. They wouldn't know who the person is at the library that they should be sending it to. They wouldn't know how to necessarily write a good, succinct email. People are pretty bad at writing pitchy, I'm pitching myself emails. There are a million ways they could blow it, but it's just the time consumption alone. Taxi is a steal.
Yep. There it is. Yeah.
Second best. We even underline the word second. And you open it up. And it says the best way to get signed. I mean, we literally have probably sent hundreds of thousands of these out over a period of about 20 years. Yeah. So, if you can do it on your own, could you have done it on your own when you joined Taxi?
No, not in a million years. No way.
You could now because of the education you've got from being in Taxi, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but still, I don't have the time to be sending out like unsolicited messages, hoping they get through to somebody. Like when I want to get new libraries, like if I go through a little bit of a lull in requests where it seems like none of the libraries I typically service are currently servicing shows,
right?
I'll be like, well, I'd like to get someone else on board. Let's see what Taxi listings are out there. And that's the way I still add to my library database or roster, whatever. I don't go out finding things on my own. And I think the analogy you made of, you could be your own legal representation too if you were in a lawsuit. You don't need a lawyer. You can represent yourself. Good luck. I mean, but you can if you really want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, anywho, moving on. Now I got just three kind of fun questions.
Yeah, these have been a lot of fun. No, they're really good. I'm glad you're asking.
This one, I don't know, maybe you can't go too into detail, but I thought this one was kind of funny. What is the most noteworthy reason you've ever had to fire a screener? Or is that even something you can go into? Or
I can tell you exactly. I just recounted this story to some staff members the other day. I was in the men's room in our office. There are several offices in our building. It's probably a 20,000 square foot building with half a dozen businesses in it. And we have a men's room on the second floor, which is where we are, a men's room on the first floor. So I was in the second floor men's room in the stall, taking care of business. And I hear two taxi screeners. First, I hear somebody standing at the urinal doing their thing. Then I hear the door open up. Hey, how you doing? It's two screeners talking to each other. One of them says to the other one, I've got to tell you, man, there's a taxi competitor that just went out of business about 9 months ago. They were around for probably 20 years. He says, I make money, aside from being a taxi screener, by running listings with this company, and I just make the crap up. He said, literally, they don't know. I just make them up, and then they let me name how much the submission fee is, and we split 50-50. So I'm putting listings out there that are total BS, and I charge $25 a submission, and I get $12.50 per submission. This company is a name that everybody in their chat room would know. I'm not going to disclose to anybody, but they did go out of business 9 or 10 months ago, around for a very long time. And we started finding taxis listings. In their listings, there was literally somebody that was copying and pasting the text from our listings, taking anything like the word taxi. They even used like a taxi listing numbers, but changed the numbers around.
Right.
And so I had dinner with the CEO of the company in New York. The company was based in New York, and I flew out there and said, you and I need to go to dinner. And I sat him down, and I told him what we'd discovered. And he goes, we're not doing that. And I said, you're absolutely doing that. And he goes, what evidence do you have? So here's two listings. One is yours, one is ours. The typos are identical. Oh. Well, I was unaware that was happening. I'm sure he was not unaware that was happening. And they got away with this for 2 decades. So those two screeners, after hearing this conversation in the men's room, I finished up in there and I walked back in and I went tapped. The screeners used to sit in 14 cubicles out in a large room in the middle of the office suite. I walked out there, tapped them each on the shoulder, said, "Can you guys join me in my office?" And they walked in. I shut the door and I said, "I was in the stall when you guys had your conversation about running fake listings to make money at that company. You can't work here anymore. Bye." And I fired them both right then and there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, now this one could also be fun. Can you identify 2 to 3 or more of the most or top boneheaded moves that you've heard musicians make once their music is actually forwarded? Like, people just like have a heart attack when the music is forwarded, because so many times we get return after return after return that getting a forward is like this crowning achievement. But then some people do some outrageously stupid things. I've heard a lot of stories, but I'm sure you know more stories than I do.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time coming up with one. I mean, I know that people will try really hard to find out who it is and probably have reached out to 10 people trying to get to the one that it actually was. Maybe, but that's all just, conjecture on my part.
Maybe I need to rephrase the question. So let's say once a library reaches back out to the musician and says, "I want to sign this music." At that point, what is the boneheaded moves that people pull?
I just talked about this the other day when Jim Thacker was at my office. I got an email a month or so ago. We do taxi compilations. Virtually everything on every compilation will get snapped up very quickly by libraries. We sent out a compilation. A library owner that I've known for probably 20 years, consider him a very good friend. He's a great business guy. Sends us a slightly terse, but not wagging his finger at us, email. Out of the 11 people on your compilation, I reached out to 5, and all 5 of them ghosted me. So 3 of them were in Europe. 2 of them were in the U.S. I got the phone number of one of the people in the U.S. who happened to be in the West Coast. It was like 4:30 in the afternoon. I called, got no answer. The person's probably at work. Person called me back the next day, and I said, this library owner said he emailed you, and you didn't email him back. He was offering you a deal. Why didn't you email back? And she goes, I don't know that I even. Yeah. Here's the email. She's looking at her computer. Well, I see the email, and I said, "So you got the email? It didn't go to your spam folder. Why did you not call him back?" And she goes, "I was just like, I didn't know if it was legit or not." And I'm thinking, all you had to do was call taxi, or Google the company name, or have a conversation with them, or all those things together. There's 10 ways till Sunday to find out if they're legit or not. And it was a company that any taxi member would want to be signed to. And she totally blew it. And so did a bunch of other members. Now, in their defense, I would suspect that other libraries beat this gentleman to the punch. They reached out to the people on the list faster. And we actually put that in the forwards when we send the compilations out. We say this stuff will get snapped up extremely fast. So don't look at this email and think about opening it tomorrow. You gotta open it now, listen to the music, make your phone calls, send your emails now. This gentleman may not have done that. I don't know for sure. Okay. I actually owe him a phone call. But we did find out, Tom found out from emailing members in Europe, that he had, in fact, reached out to them, but they had already signed deals with other companies, to which I say that also qualifies as being boneheaded. Because as you well know, if somebody snaps up something you've got, that's the most delightful phone call in the world when somebody or email when somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, I'd like to sign this piece of music." And you go, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. Somebody else grabbed it already." The next thing out of your mouth, and I would literally bet my house that you would do this. Next thing out of your mouth is, "I'd be more than happy to make you a full CD of other stuff that sounds remarkably similar to it," to which they'd go, "You're on. When can you deliver that?"
Yep.
So
that would be, you win that bet, because those would be the words that I would would come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Like, what a golden opportunity.
Yeah, and they love you even more when they hear that somebody else got it. There's definitely that little,
they hit that FOMO.
FOMO, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, we got one more for you.
Okay.
This is more of like a biography question for you.
Sure.
But I know your background was pre-Taxi. You were a mixing engineer. You worked in the audio production field, right?
Right. Recording, mixing, producing, all that.
Recording, yep. So what was it that went through your head that said, I want to stay in the music business, but kind of abandon this career that I'd already been working at and launch a business where my mixing skills are not actually really all that relevant, and I'm more just being like a people pleaser?
Am I a people pleaser? Yeah, it does. So here's the progression of how, because that's not exactly how it happened or why it happened.
Okay.
Yes, I've been an engineer, a mixer, producer, all that stuff for 10, 12, 13 years, something like that. And basically decided one night, I was working on a record with a very famous rock star who really upset me. And I just said, that's it. I'm done working with people that are wired on cocaine, that have no respect for the, I'll do a 24-hour day in the studio and not grouse about it one iota. This guy didn't care about it. He was drunk and high on cocaine and heroin. And I just excused myself to go to the restroom, walked out of the studio, got my car, drove home, woke up my wife, first wife, whose birthday I missed, even though my contract with them said I was out early on that date, and said, come on, take a shower. We're going to the airport. We're moving to New York. And we did just that. Upon arriving in New York, I got a job working at a big, like couple 100,000 square feet of video shoot, video edit, and audio post under one roof. The movie Tootsie with Dustin Hoffman was being filmed there. And Dustin Hoffman sat down next to me while I was waiting for the interview, and I thought, that is the most unfortunately unattractive woman I've ever seen in my life. It was Dustin Hoffman trying out different costumes. Anyway, I got a job and worked in New York doing audio post-production. And I wasn't exactly truthful when they said, do you have a lot of experience doing it? And I said, uh-huh. I had half a dozen gold and platinum records on my wall already, but I got to tell you, mixing for film and TV, you could have 100 gold records and not know how to do a single voiceover to quarter-inch tape and mix it with sound effects and music. They're just two different disciplines using the same equipment. So I literally walked away from making records because I was never home. I had a daughter that was 9 months old. I'd never changed the diaper. I barely ever saw the kid. And one night I came home, my wife held up the baby and said, say hello to your daughter. So I just literally walked away from it, and did really well in post-production. Ended up running the largest audio post facility probably anywhere on the planet Earth. I had a great boss. We had a love-hate relationship, but he fell in love, moved to Europe for a year and a half, and I basically got to run the day-to-day operation of the place, grew the company, and I loved doing audio post. We worked on major commercials and TV shows every minute of every day in multiple rooms. So all that to say, I had the record side of my career, and I had mostly doing mixing for advertising and TV shows. So I really understood both of those disciplines, and there are very few other people that have done both of those extensively. So it was kind of, then I moved to LA and ended up running a really large general post-production facility, and didn't like my boss. Turned in the keys to my company, BMW. I had an apartment in LA, an apartment in New York, was going back and forth every other week. And I just thought, what am I going to do with my life? And the idea for Taxi popped into my head. Maybe it was driven by the fact that I had these very specific skill sets. Venn diagram, audio engineer, post engineer, and in the middle is Michael Laskow. So I was like the perfect guy to do this. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. I think it did. Yeah. Well, that's all I've got for you.
Oh, I thought we were just getting warmed up, man.
Now, are we recording yet?
God, I hope so. Yes, an hour 53 minutes. Wow. Seriously, Matt, when I asked if you'd be willing to do this, and I knew that you would say yes, I had no idea that you would do such a great job. You are the kind of guy that doesn't ever do anything half-assed, and that's why you are so successful, because you jump in with both feet, and as Shirley always says, in it to win it. That's you. I literally am so deeply grateful for the questions that you asked, and tell the guys in your group that I said thank you for that.
Yeah, I will. You know, one thing, if I could end on just like a final little high note here. As I had my group over here at the house and we were kind of coming up with these questions, one of the things that kept coming up over and over was the impact that Taxi has had on so many lives, just in our little microcosm that was here in my living room. Were it not for you creating Taxi and giving me opportunities that everyone else has access to. It's not like you gave them specifically to me. I was just one of thousands of members. But it changed my life in ways that I never imagined. And now as a result, I've got this whole group of 12 or 13 people that come over here to get mentored by me, and I'm changing their lives, and they're trying to become full-time musicians as well. And it's a very long ripple effect that you have created, and the impact you've had on so many lives. It's remarkable. It really is. And so I always say thank you, but I just got to say it again. So thank you just for being you and for doing what you've done and changing the lives of people who would probably be wasting their talents doing other things were it not for Taxi.
Well, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. If people want to show their appreciation, they could do it by sending us when they get placements. Members just don't do it. I got one from a guy, great guy actually, who's done it before. He had 7,300 syncs in the last quarter. In a single quarter.
Jeez.
Yeah. And somebody said, oh, he's got to be lying. He's not lying. Trust me, he's not lying. But we have to beg people to send this stuff in. And it's like, we changed your life. We delivered the dream you've had to your doorstep. You get credit for doing the work, but without us doing what we do, all you have to do is shoot an email. Hey, Taxi, I just had a placement in this big TV show. I would never have met that library and gotten the placement if not for Taxi. So I'm encouraging all of you watching today, send that stuff in like once or twice a month, and just send it to deals@taxi.com. We would love to. And by the way, you and I've never talked about this. I'll keep this short because I know we're way out of time. Members don't understand how many libraries look at our forum and how many look at our newsletter and look at our success stories. And I can think right off the top of my head of 3 libraries I know that scan our success stories and figure, okay, if this guy Matt Vander Boegh is getting all these forwards and placements, he must be doing something right. They Google Matt Vander Boegh, they go to the website, they see you're credible, and they reach out to you. So members, by not telling us, it's like they're only hurting themselves by not, but I think musicians are so afraid, people are going to think I'm a braggart. If you win the marathon, you can put that shirt on that says, I won the effing marathon.
You damn right you do, and you wear it proudly.
That's right. Liz, not forums.taxi.com. The email address for deals where they can report stuff. Anyway, Matt, thank you so much for doing this. And
you're welcome.
I want to say how lucky I am to have you as a friend. I mean, how many people who own companies get to call their customers their friends, or become their friends. And I love watching people like you and you specifically succeed. It validates that I had one good idea sitting there with my feet up on my desk 34 years ago when I had the idea and thought, what am I going to do with my life? The idea popped into my head. I wrote the business plan in less than 48 hours, got funded within a week, and started this company. But never in my wildest dreams would I have ever imagined how many lives would be touched by the work that I do and the staff and the screeners. We get paid to make people's dreams come true. They come to us with the dreams, we give them the tools. So thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for inspiring your fellow members. Everybody should absolutely check out Matt's Music Minute on YouTube. Liz just posted it in the chat. He's doing great videos. And you know what? If I die before you, which is a pretty good possibility because I'm at least 20 years older than you are, I think, I want you to deliver my eulogy.
You got it.
All right,
Let's
buddy.
hope that's not for at least 3 more decades.
There you go. That would mean I would break well, my grandfather lived in 97 and my dad lived in 97. You never know.
There you go. You got it.
All right.
Yeah.
And all you guys that watch today, thank you so much for being part of Taxi TV. Send us some success stories so we don't have to beg people and scrounge for them. Next week, I am going to have Andrew Jordan on the show because he inspired me with an idea. We were on a phone call today. We are going to do 10 ways you're killing your own career. Something we hit on in a phone call unrelated to that made me think of that. So Andrew Jordan next week. And then the following week, Jim Thacker, top 10 things I wish I knew in the beginning. So great guys, great information. And once again, Matt Vander Boegh, MVB, baby. You rock it. Go to his YouTube site. And see you guys next week on another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live.
Later, everybody.